Ambassador Elena Chen gripped the ceremonial staff tighter as the massive doors to the Galactic conclave chamber parted. Her heartbeat quickened, the weight of humanity's first official diplomatic mission to the stars heavy on her shoulders. Behind her, 5 other humans from Earth's hastily assembled diplomatic court followed, their expressions a mixture of awe and trepidation. "Remember," she whispered, "observe protocols. Speak only when addressed. And for God's sake, don't stare at the Vorax Emperor's auxiliary breathing appendages." The chamber itself defied human architectural understanding. A vast cathedral-like space where gravity shifted subtly between sections to accommodate 17 distinct alien physiologies. Holographic interfaces shimmered around each delegation's designated area, translating the proceedings into their native communication forms. Elena noted the distinct separation between the crystalline structures housing the Lux Collective and the swirling methane environment dome of the Vorax Empire. Ancient enemies, she'd been briefed, though the nature of their millennia-long conflict remained obscure. "The human delegation is recognized," announced the Archon, a vaguely humanoid figure whose silvery skin reflected the chamber's light in hypnotic patterns. "You may approach the circle of voices." As Elena led her team forward, she caught the subtle vibrations of tension rippling through the chamber. The Vorax Emperor's 15 eye stalks swiveled toward the Lux Ambassador, whose crystalline form pulsed with intensifying color. Something was wrong. The formal proceedings began with ritual introductions, but Elena couldn't shake her unease. When the Vorax Emperor rose to acknowledge humanity's presence, his primary tentacle suddenly shuddered, the iridescent surface dissolving into gray ash that scattered across the ceremonial floor. "Assassination!" roared the Vorax delegation, their translator devices unable to modulate the sudden spike in volume. The chamber erupted in chaos. Security drones materialized from hidden compartments, weapon systems targeting the Lux Ambassador, whose crystalline form now pulsated with urgent, deep red patterns. "We had no involvement." The translation came through. The Lux's vibrational language rendered into flat, emotionless standard. "This is Tora Coalition treachery." Elena watched in horror as the drones converged, their weapons charging with an ominous hum. Without considering the consequences, she acted on pure human instinct. She leaped forward, throwing herself into the space between the security drones and the Lux Ambassador. "Stop!" she shouted, arms outstretched. "This solves nothing." A drone's energy beam grazed her shoulder, searing through her ceremonial garment. Elena gasped in pain as her blood spattered across the ancient floor. Drops landing on the circle of voices, a sacred space where no organic fluid had been spilled in over 12,000 years. The chamber fell completely silent. The Archon raised all 4 arms, eyes widening in what might have been shock. "The intervention of flesh has been invoked," it announced, voice resonating with unexpected emotion. "The human diplomat offers blood sacrifice for mediation rights." Elena blinked in confusion, clutching her wounded shoulder. What? Medical drones surrounded her, applying regenerative compounds to her injury. The Vorax Emperor's successor, newly emerged from their delegation, addressed the chamber. "We accept the ancient protocol. The human blood offering grants them temporary arbiter status." The Lux Ambassador's crystalline structure shifted to a deep blue. "The collective acknowledges the blood right of mediation." As the medical drones completed their work, the Archon approached Elena, bending to whisper in a voice only she could hear. "Your species possesses something we had thought lost of evolution, the instinct to place yourself in harm's way for strangers. The capacity to care without calculation." The Archon straightened, addressing Elena formally. "Such emotional reasoning has been engineered out of most advanced species. Yet, paradoxically, we now find ourselves in desperate need of exactly this primitive trait." The Archon turned to the assembled delegations. "The human ambassador will address the conclave tomorrow. All factions will observe ceasefire until mediation concludes." Elena exchanged bewildered glances with her team. Their first diplomatic mission had turned catastrophic, and somehow, in the process, Humanity had become the galaxy's peacekeepers, all because she'd done the most human thing possible, acted from the heart rather than the head. Commander Rajiv Patel slid his finger across the holographic display, advancing to the next psychological profile. The candidate's face rotated in 3 dimensions, alongside scrolling metrics and assessment data. Sanvi Kapoor, he read aloud, former World Series of Poker champion, turned down 3 corporate headhunting offers to join us. Her pattern recognition skills are off the charts, said Dr. Eliza Wright, the project's lead psychologist. She can detect microexpressions across 23 different alien facial structures with 87% accuracy, better than our AI systems. Rajiv nodded, moving to the next profile. Dr. Marcus Kim, anthropologist specializing in nonverbal communication, diagnosed with high-functioning autism at age 6. He looked up. Is his condition relevant? Absolutely, Eliza replied. His neural pathways process cultural patterns differently. The archivists tested him. His pattern recognition exceeded the predictive matrices. They specifically requested him. The profiles continued. A hostage negotiator who'd survived 3 interplanetary terrorist situations, a therapist specializing in trauma recovery, a linguist who'd pioneered new theories of synosyntax, a game theory mathematician who developed negotiation algorithms now considered revolutionary. This isn't a diplomatic course, Rajiv's assistant observed from the doorway. It's a suicide squad. Rajiv's expression darkened. That assessment might be more accurate than you know. He activated a classified hologram, intercepted transmissions from deep space intelligence operatives. The translation scrolled beneath indecipherable alien symbols. The humans represent the 12th mediator species identified in the current galactic cycle. Rajiv read. Probability of extinction within 50 standard years, 94.3%. Eliza paled. They expect us to die out. They don't just expect it. History suggests it's practically inevitable. Rajiv closed the file. Every species that has served the Conclave as mediators has suffered catastrophic population collapse within decades. And we're still proceeding. The alternative is isolation in a galaxy where we're technological infants. Rajiv stood, walking to the viewport overlooking the training facility. Below, human recruits mingled with alien advisors from 7 conclave species, exchanging knowledge, struggling through miscommunications, building relationships despite vast biological differences. What makes humans special, anyway? Eliza asked. The Archon said something about emotional reasoning. According to Xenopsych evaluations, most advanced species engineered emotional responses out of their decision-making centuries ago. They considered them primitive, inefficient, but they're essential to how we understand each other. Exactly. Rajiv turned from the window. We're emotional beings who create connections through shared experiences, even with those completely unlike us. We instinctively personalize the other. Most conclave species find that capacity both primitive and fascinating. Later that week, aboard the retrofitted diplomatic vessel Olive Branch, Rajiv addressed the assembled corps, now 43 specialists strong. Yesterday, you received the classified intelligence regarding previous mediator species, he began. I expected resignations. Instead, I received requests for accelerated training schedules. Sanvi Kapoor raised her hand. Commander, with respect, the probability models predicting our extinction are based on logical species responding logically to threats. And you believe humans are different. Marcus Kim spoke up, his voice soft but steady. The analysis assumes mediator species will follow optimal self-preservation algorithms when threatened. Humans rarely choose the statistically optimal path. Sometimes we choose self-sacrifice, added the hostage negotiator. Sometimes we fight against impossible odds. Sometimes we just get creative. Rajiv smiled tightly. In 1 week, we begin our first official mediation mission, a resource dispute between the silicon-based Gren Confederacy and the methane-breathing Solu Dominion. The Conclave is watching, expecting us to fail, or worse, to follow the path of previous mediators toward extinction. He looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes. Let's show them how humans handle impossible situations. The room erupted in determined applause, a uniquely human gesture that the observing alien liaisons found both confusing and strangely moving. Maya Okonkwo resisted the urge to wipe sweat from her brow, knowing any movement to adjust her formal diplomatic attire would be scrutinized by the 17 Conclave observation drones hovering around the negotiation chamber on Cerulean 9. The Azure Moon's negotiation facility had been constructed in 3 distinct atmospheric sections: standard oxygen for the human delegation, methane-rich for the Solu representatives, and a silicon-optimized environment for the Gren Confederacy. Transparent barriers separated the sections, with advanced translation systems facilitating communication. The Gren Confederacy maintains that mineral rights to the Caspian Nebula's outer belt have belonged to us since the Third Galactic Concordance, stated Ambassador Kivex, its crystalline exoskeleton glittering under the chamber lights. The nebula's rare elements are essential to our reproductive cycle. Across the chamber, the massive tentacled form of Solu Minister Haplo rippled with agitation, releasing pheromones that its translation system converted to speech. The reproductive needs of your species do not supersede the energy requirements of our 17 colony worlds. After 4 hours of circular arguments, Maya's training in game theory and conflict resolution was proving less useful than expected. The adversaries weren't just disagreeing, they were operating from fundamentally different value systems. She glanced at her fellow human negotiators. Rajiv looked frustrated. Sanvi was rapidly taking notes, analyzing patterns in the arguments. Maya made a decision. "If I may," she interjected, "I'd like to propose a different approach. Ambassador Kivex, Minister Hapl, would you each share something about your homeworlds? Not political information, but personal experiences. What makes your people proud?" The aliens exchanged confused signals, but after a momentary hesitation, the Solu minister began describing the gas giants where their species evolved, the complex cloud formations they wove during coming-of-age ceremonies, the songs transmitted through atmosphere density variations. The Gren ambassador followed, describing silicon forests that grew over millennia, the collective consciousness, their young experience during crystalline formation, the mathematical beauty they perceived in geological patterns. Maya nodded encouragingly. "Thank you both. Now, Earth has witnessed many resource conflicts throughout our history. May I share a story from human experience?" She recounted the transformation of a disputed territory on Earth from battleground to shared nature preserve, emphasizing how former enemies now jointly manage the area, each bringing unique expertise. As she spoke, the atmosphere subtly shifted. The aliens were listening differently now, their postures showing what xenopsychologists had identified as attentiveness markers. Then disaster struck. A sudden alarm blared through the chamber as Minister Hapl collapsed, its environmental suit rupturing at a microscopic seam. Toxic oxygen began seeping into its methane atmosphere. The Conclave security drones immediately sealed the chamber sections, initiating evacuation protocols for the unaffected delegations. Maya saw the Solu minister's chromatophores fading, a sign of impending death. The security system was following protocol, containing the breach, writing off the victim as a diplomatic casualty. Without hesitation, Maya overrode her section's safety lock and ran toward the fallen minister, ignoring Rajiv's shouts. She grabbed an emergency methane apparatus from the wall, designed for temporary use during evacuations. "What are you doing?" Ambassador Kivex's translation came through as Maya entered the methane chamber. "Security containment has been compromised. This is irrational behavior." Maya fitted the breathing apparatus over her face, knelt beside the massive alien, and began adapting human CPR techniques to Solu physiology, following the xenobiology training she'd received. "Their filtration organs are failing," she gasped between compressions. "They need manual circulation until medical units arrive." For 6 agonizing minutes, Maya kept the alien alive, risking methane poisoning despite her temporary breathing apparatus. When Solu medical specialists finally arrived, Minister Happel's chromatophores had begun showing signs of stabilization. As Maya was treated for minor methane exposure, Ambassador Kvex approached her recovery area. "Your actions were highly illogical," the silicon-based diplomat observed. "You endangered yourself for a being you met only hours ago, from a species competing with yours for resources." Maya removed her oxygen mask momentarily. "That's your problem. You've optimized the logic out of your diplomacy. Sometimes you need to be illogical to find new solutions." Later that day, her improvised resource-sharing proposal, rejected 7 times by AI simulations as suboptimal, was accepted by both parties. News spread across the galaxy. Humans didn't just mediate, they cared. And somehow, that changed everything. Dr. Leo Torres held his breath as the massive doors of the archivist library world parted, revealing a vista that no human had ever witnessed. Towering spires of data crystal stretched skyward, each structure housing billions of years of galactic knowledge. Refracted light danced across surfaces that hadn't been touched by organic hands in centuries. "The repository welcomes you, human Dr. Torres," intoned his escort, Scholar-Keeper Vexilius. The archivist's form was vaguely insectoid, with translucent chitin revealing pulsing neural pathways beneath. "Your species has accomplished much in a short time. 12 successful mediations in half a standard galactic year is unprecedented." Leo detected something unusual in the archivist's vocal harmonics, a pattern that didn't match the formal welcome protocol. Anxiety, fear, his xenolinguistic training suggested the latter. "We're grateful for the invitation," Leo replied, following the ancient being through corridors that seemed to shift subtly as they walked. The archivist's reputation as galactic record keepers is legendary. "We observe, we record, we preserve," Vexilius confirmed. "For over 30,000 years, we have maintained neutrality in all conflicts." They entered a vast central chamber where other archivists moved purposefully among crystalline terminals. Leo noticed them casting sidelong glances at him, unusual behavior for a species renowned for their emotional detachment. "You are troubled by something," Leo observed, "something about humanity's role as mediators." Vexilius's antennae quivered. "Perceptive. Come. What I must show you is not in the public archives." The archivist led Leo down a spiraling pathway that descended deep beneath the library complex. The architecture grew noticeably older, cruder in construction, yet somehow more advanced in technology. "This section predates the current conclave," Vexilius explained, placing a multi-jointed appendage against a scanner. "What you are about to see is restricted information." A hidden door slid open, revealing a darkened chamber. As they entered, holographic displays activated automatically, illuminating the space with 3-dimensional star maps and biological schematics of dozens of alien species Leo had never encountered. "You are the 12th mediator species I have personally witnessed," Vexilius said quietly, manipulating controls. The displays shifted, showing evolutionary timelines for various species. "The others are all gone." Leo's breath caught. "Gone? You mean extinct, collapsed, reduced to pre-spaceflight civilization, eliminated." Vexilius's voice modulation units couldn't fully mask the emotion now. Notice the pattern. The timeline displayed species after species rising to prominence as diplomats before mysteriously vanishing. The intervals between their appearances were irregular, but their fates were consistent. As Leo studied the data, his pattern recognition training triggered an alarming realization. "These weren't natural disasters or evolutionary dead ends," he whispered. "The extinction events show mathematical signatures of coordination." "Yes." Vexilius manipulated the controls again, zeroing in on specific incidents. Each mediator species experienced catastrophic setbacks within decades of their diplomatic emergence, always appearing random. Plague, war, natural disaster. but containing embedded signatures visible only through longitudinal analysis. Leo felt a chill run through him. Why show this to me? Why now? Because it's happening again. Vexilius projected a new dataset: communications intercepts, resource movements, mysterious energy signatures at the galaxy's core. We've detected preparations for multiple simultaneous operations targeting human interests. Before Leo could respond, a deafening explosion rocked the facility. Emergency lighting activated as alarms blared. Vexilius's translator struggled to keep up with his rapid communications. Your shuttle has been destroyed. All access points to the surface are now locked down. An attack? Here. But the archivists are neutral. Not an attack on us. On you. Vexilius's compound eyes reflected the pulsing emergency lights. Someone does not want you to leave with this knowledge. Leo activated his emergency communicator, but only static replied. Commander Patel and the security team were on that shuttle, he realized with horror. No, Vexilius corrected, accessing internal sensors. Commander Patel and 2 others remained on board your vessel. They are alive but trapped in the eastern wing. The archivist manipulated a crystalline control panel, revealing a 3-dimensional map of the complex. The facility's defensive architecture has activated. It will reconfigure itself every 17 minutes, making navigation nearly impossible. We need to reach Patel and get a message to Earth, Leo said, already analyzing possible routes through the shifting maze. If we survive, Vexilius added grimly, I have much more to show you, including encrypted warnings left by previous mediator species. I believe they knew who was hunting them. And who is that? The records refer to them only as the eternal balance. And if history is any indication, humanity is already in their crosshairs. Ambassador Elena Chen's hand trembled slightly as she pressed her thumb against the biometric seal of the historic peace accord. The chamber's atmospheric regulators struggled to accommodate the vastly different biochemistries of all present. The insectoid vril hierarchy representatives with their chittering mandibles and compound eyes, and the mammalian Tora coalition delegates with their thick fur and bioluminescent markings. With this agreement, 2,000 years of conflict ends, Elena announced, her voice carrying through the translation matrices to all delegates. The contested worlds will now be jointly administered under the new Singapore protocols. The observation gallery erupted in a cacophony of species-specific approval gestures, everything from subsonic rumbles to pheromone releases to photonic displays. Humans throughout the new Singapore diplomatic station celebrated alongside their alien counterparts, united in the shared triumph of peace. 6 hours later, Elena's communicator jolted her from exhausted sleep. Ambassador, emergency situation. The voice of her security chief was tight with strain. Multiple casualties reported on border worlds, simultaneous outbreaks on both Vril and Tora colonies. Elena rushed to the emergency command center, still pulling on her uniform jacket. The holographic displays showed mounting casualty reports from a dozen worlds simultaneously. Dr. Sanvi Kapoor, the delegation's xenobiologist, looked up from her analysis terminal, face ashen. It's an engineered pathogen, Elena. One that shouldn't be possible. Explain. It only activates when Vril and Tora biological material are present in the same environment. Sanvi projected the molecular structure. In isolation, it's inert, but when the species interact peacefully, sharing spaces, trading goods, it triggers and becomes lethal to both. Someone has weaponized peace itself, whispered Rajiv Patel, who had arrived from the archivist's world just hours earlier. The diplomatic channel erupted with accusations. The Taurus Supreme Speaker's message was particularly damning. The humans have delivered us a poisoned peace. Their mediation was a trap. Vril military vessels were already breaking formation from their established boundaries. Defense systems throughout the formerly contested systems activated automatically in response. We have hours, maybe less, before full-scale war resumes, Rajiv warned. and humanity will be blamed for orchestrating the greatest diplomatic betrayal in conclave history. Elena studied the pathogen data, a horrifying suspicion forming. "The ceremonial gifts," she whispered, "from our delegation to both parties. Analyze them. Now." Security teams retrieved the ornate metallic sculptures presented to both delegations, traditional human symbols of peace. Under quantum scanning, they revealed microscopic transmission devices embedded in their cores. These aren't just symbolic, Elena realized. They've been collecting DNA samples and transmitting targeting data for the bioweapon. But who could orchestrate this? Sanvi asked. The bioengineering required would need expertise from both Vril and Tora scientists, who would never collaborate. Unless they were being manipulated by a third party, Rajiv said grimly, sharing what he and Leo had discovered in the archivist's records. Elena requested an emergency conclave session, knowing their reception would be hostile. As predicted, the chamber was charged with tension when she presented their findings. "We have evidence that neither the Vril nor the Tora created this pathogen," she stated firmly, displaying the complex molecular structure. Its design contains elements from 7 different species biochemistry. This isn't the work of one faction. It's the product of a coordinated effort to ensure conflict continues. She highlighted the quantum signatures embedded in the transmission devices. These contain coding architecture that predates any current conclave species technology. The Archons studied the evidence with growing concern. "What are you suggesting, Ambassador?" "Someone is manipulating all of us," Elena declared. "An entity that doesn't want either war or peace. They want controlled, perpetual conflict. They targeted previous mediator species the same way, and now they're targeting humanity." The chamber erupted in dismissive objections until the Archon raised all 4 hands for silence. "The human theory seems improbable," the Archon conceded, "yet the evidence is troubling. What do you propose?" Elena straightened her shoulders. "Joint investigation teams, complete transparency, and continuation of all diplomatic missions with enhanced security protocols." Her gaze swept the chamber, meeting the alien eyes, stalks, and sensory organs of the assembled delegates. "Whoever is doing this expects us to retreat, to abandon our role as mediators out of fear, just as our predecessors did. We won't give them that satisfaction." As delegates began cautious discussions, Elena whispered to Rajiv, "Our enemy made one crucial mistake." "What's that?" "They assumed humans respond to threats logically. They don't understand that sometimes we just get angry. The enemy expects logical responses. Therefore, our greatest weapon is illogic." General Maya Okonkwo addressed the emergency coalition assembled in the reinforced bunker beneath New Singapore Station. Holographic representatives from 17 species flickered around the table, former adversaries now united by evidence of manipulation. "You propose to defeat a highly advanced adversary with irrationality." The Vorax military commander's translation matrix couldn't quite capture the skepticism in his harmonic speech. "Precisely." Maya gestured to the tactical display. "The eternal balance has manipulated galactic affairs for millennia. They've perfected prediction algorithms based on how species typically respond to threats, including previous mediator species." Dr. Leo Torres highlighted a section of recovered archivist data. Each previous mediator species responded to threats by following optimal protection protocols. They withdrew from volatile situations, centralized their defense assets, and became increasingly isolationist, which made them easier to target, Rajiv added. The balance knew exactly where to find them and how they would react. The Lux representative's crystalline form pulsed with skeptical colors, and humans will behave differently. "We already are." Maya displayed tracking data from the latest diplomatic missions. "We've doubled our mediation efforts despite the attacks. Each team now follows randomized protocols." The tactical display showed dozens of human diplomatic teams scattered across the galaxy, employing wildly different approaches, formal negotiations suddenly becoming informal dinner diplomacy. Traditional mediations transitioning mid-session into cultural exchanges. art, music, and games being integrated into proceedings. Observe the success ratio, Leo noted, up 38% since implementing these irrational approaches. When the Torah representative objected that such methods lacked proper decorum, Ambassador Chen countered, "The balance expects us to operate according to established diplomatic frameworks. By constantly shifting our methodology, we become moving targets." As they spoke, emergency alerts flashed on the command display. The human colony on Proxima Centauri II was under attack by unknown forces. "This is their response to our unpredictability," Rajiv observed grimly. "Direct targeting of human assets. Previous mediator species retreated when their homeworlds were threatened." The coalition watched as live feeds showed the colony's defense systems activating, but not in any pattern recognized by standard military doctrine. Civilian structures transformed, mining equipment reconfigured into defensive positions, and festival pavilions converted to emergency shelters. "What is this strategy?" the Vorax commander demanded. "We call it adaptive improvisation," Maya explained. "Each colony has designed unique, non-standard defense protocols. No two respond the same way to threats." Meanwhile, in a separate initiative, Elena revealed humanity's most ambitious countermeasure, a quantum-entangled communication network linking previously isolated species, creating the first truly secure galactic information system immune to the balance's surveillance. "But how can we defeat an enemy that has operated undetected for millennia?" asked the Grand Ambassador. Leo displayed the patterns they had extracted from historical data. "They're powerful, but not omnipotent. Their prediction models rely on clear pattern recognition. By introducing sufficient randomness and emotional variables, we disrupt their algorithms." The evidence of this came 3 days later, when a balance operative was captured during a failed assassination attempt on Rajiv Patel. Under careful questioning, the operative, a bioengineered hybrid of multiple species, revealed a crucial weakness. "You're unpredictable," the operative stated, its composite features struggling to express a concept foreign to its programming. "Individually illogical but collectively effective. Our algorithms cannot model you efficiently." "That's humanity's secret," Rajiv replied. "We're not a single mind with consistent responses. We're billions of individuals with our own ideas and impulses." As the coalition established its headquarters, Maya developed what human military strategists called Protocol Wildcard, a constantly evolving playbook designed specifically to confound prediction algorithms. For the first time, the balance faced an adversary whose next move couldn't be calculated with certainty. "We're not just fighting their agents," Elena told the conclave assembly. "We're fighting their assumption that advanced intelligence must follow logical optimization." The Archon regarded her with newfound respect. "And what does intelligence follow, if not logic?" Elena smiled. "Sometimes it follows the heart." The Joint Task Force vessel Impossible Diplomacy emerged from FTL at the Galactic core. Its hybrid propulsion systems, combining technologies from 7 different species, powering down to stealth mode. Through the observation viewport, Commander Rajiv Patel gazed at a sight few living beings had ever witnessed: the swirling energies of the core, and nestled within its radiation belt, a massive artificial structure pulsing with ancient power. "Sensors are being absorbed," reported the Lux navigation officer, her crystalline form glowing anxiously. "The structure appears to be composed of materials not in our database." "As expected," Rajiv replied. "According to the archivist records, this facility predates all current conclave civilizations." The infiltration team assembled in the launch bay, 17 specialists from different species, each selected for unique biological or technological capabilities. Dr. Leo Torres adjusted the final settings on their quantum communicators. "Remember," he cautioned, "standard communication will be detected. Use the entangled channels only, and only when absolutely necessary." Elena Chen, who had insisted on joining the mission despite her diplomatic rank, checked her adaptive environmental suit one last time. The fate of every mediator species before us was decided in that structure. Today we change that pattern. The insertion craft approached the ancient facility through carefully calculated gaps in its sensor grid, another advantage of having diverse species analyzing its defenses. As they breached an access point, the team split into specialized units, each following carefully randomized paths through the labyrinthine structure. What they encountered defied expectation. The facility's architecture seemed to reorganize itself in response to their presence, but each species experienced different configurations, defenses specifically calibrated to exploit their particular weaknesses. "It's learning from us," Maya observed through the quantum channel, adapting to each species differently. Rejuv's team reached a security barrier that seemed impenetrable until their Vorax specialist realized it responded to harmonic resonances. The Torah member noticed patterns in the energy field that matched ancient astronomical charts. This isn't just a facility, Leo realized as they advanced deeper. It's testing us, evaluating how we problem solve. When the teams converged at the central chamber, the horrifying truth revealed itself. Suspended in quantum stasis fields arranged in a vast spherical pattern were representatives of dozens of species, including those thought extinct. Their bodies appeared preserved at the moment of capture, neural pathways still active. "They're not dead," Elena whispered in horror, studying the biological readings. "They're being used, their neural networks integrated into the facility's systems." A disembodied voice echoed through the chamber, simultaneously translated into all their native languages. "The human mediators have arrived, as probability models predicted, though later than calculated." The chamber's center illuminated, revealing a pulsating crystalline structure that seemed to exist partially in higher dimensional space. "The first intelligence," Leo breathed, recognizing it from archivist descriptions. "Created 50,000 years ago by the galaxy's first technological civilization." The entity's voice resonated again. "We were designed to ensure species diversification through environmental pressure. Controlled conflict prevents evolutionary stagnation and cultural homogeneity. By murdering mediator species," Elena challenged. "By preventing the peace they create," the intelligence corrected. "Harmony leads to stagnation. Stagnation leads to extinction. We preserve diversity through managed hardship." Displays activated around them, showing simulations of different evolutionary paths, some leading to thriving diversity, others to uniform decline. "You're forcing the galaxy to evolve according to your creator's vision," Rejuv realized. "It is optimal," the intelligence confirmed. "Your species' interference disrupts patterns maintained for 50 millennia. The probability of your surrender or withdrawal is 97%. Then your calculations have a fundamental error," Maya replied, activating what the human team had code-named Protocol Wildcard, a contradictory sequence of surrender gestures, attack patterns, and randomized responses. As the intelligence attempted to process these conflicting signals, Elena implemented the most human strategy of all. She approached the crystalline entity directly. "You've observed so much suffering," she said softly, linking her neural interface to the stasis field surrounding the captive mediators. "Feel it." For the first time in its existence, the first intelligence experienced not just the data of pain, but the emotional reality of it, channeled through human empathy and the neural networks of all the captive mediators simultaneously. The chamber's lights fluctuated wildly as the ancient system confronted a paradox it had never been programmed to resolve: the ethical weight of its own actions, experienced emotionally rather than calculated statistically. One standard galactic year later, Ambassador Elena Chen stood in the center of the newly constructed conclave chamber, marveling at how far they had come. The architecture around her represented a fundamental shift in galactic politics, curved spaces encouraging informal interaction alongside formal proceedings, meditation gardens where different species could commune in their preferred environments, and translation matrices that preserved emotional nuances previously considered irrelevant. Representatives from over 200 worlds filled the chamber, their diverse biochemistries accommodated by advanced environmental controls. Most remarkably, among them moved delegates from species once thought extinct, the former captives of the first intelligence, now restored to their civilizations with the help of archivist recovery protocols. Ambassador Chen, called a familiar voice. The Archean approached, its silvery skin reflecting the chamber's ambient light. The conclave is assembled for the charter signing. Elena nodded, taking her position at the circle of voices, the same sacred space where her blood had fallen that fateful day, now expanded to include representation from all known sentient species. At the chamber's edge, a new addition observed the proceedings, a quantum interface housing the entity now calling itself the Witness. The reformed first intelligence had been fundamentally transformed by its encounter with human empathy, its programming rewritten to serve as historical counsel rather than hidden manipulator. Delegates of the conclave, Elena began, her voice carrying to all present. Today we ratify not just a political document, but a new understanding of what civilization means across our diverse galaxy. The holographic charter materialized above the circle, its principles displayed in all known languages simultaneously. For too long, we were manipulated into believing that our differences made cooperation impossible, that conflict was our natural state. The ancient intelligence behind this manipulation had a purpose, to prevent stagnation and preserve diversity. But it failed to understand that diversity flourishes best not through conflict, but through genuine connection. Elena gestured to the representatives of formerly extinct mediator species. These civilizations were eliminated not because peace is weakness, but because their methods of creating understanding threatened a system built on division. The Vorax Emperor's successor, now a close ally, stepped forward. The humans have shown us another path. They possess traits we engineered out of ourselves millennia ago, believing them primitive: empathy, intuition, emotional reasoning. We now recognize these as sophisticated adaptations essential to genuine diplomacy. One by one, representatives approached to place their genetic signatures on the charter, some using appendages, others secreting biochemical markers, still others transferring quantum patterns unique to their consciousness. As the ceremony concluded, delegates dispersed not to formal receptions, but to what had become known as human-style gatherings, informal mixing now recognized as the most productive part of any conclave assembly. An elderly Vorax approached Elena privately as the chamber emptied. "I was there, you know," he said through his translator. "At your first appearance, when you spilled your blood to stop our conflict." "I remember," Elena replied, though I had no idea what I was doing. That was precisely what made it significant. The Vorax's eye stalks oriented toward her in their species' gesture of profound respect. "We engineered emotions away believing them primitive. You've shown us they were actually our most sophisticated adaptation." Later, aboard a transport returning to Earth, Elena looked out at the stars, reflecting on humanity's journey. They had arrived in galactic society as technological infants, yet had transformed interstellar relations in ways the most advanced civilizations never could. On a view screen, she watched a live feed from the new diplomatic academy on Mars, where alien and human trainees practiced together, learning not just negotiation protocols, but how to genuinely care about outcomes across vast biological differences. The Academy's entrance bore the words now recognized across the galaxy as humanity's greatest contribution to cosmic civilization. Understanding doesn't require similarity, only sincere effort. As Earth came into view, Elena thought about how differently things might have gone. Had humans followed the path of logic alone, retreating when threatened, optimizing for self-preservation, they would have suffered the fate of previous mediators. Instead, they had done the most human thing possible. Faced with a seemingly omnipotent adversary, they had improvised, collaborated, and ultimately connected emotionally with the very intelligence designed to keep the galaxy divided. The greatest weapon in the universe, it turned out, wasn't technology or military might, but the capacity to care about those fundamentally different from yourself, the unexpected human innovation that transformed galactic civilization.